Hello, welcome to week one of ECE 103, Child Growth and Development. First, I'd like to, of course, welcome you to our course. I'd also like to point out the sweet child in the middle of the first slide. If you ever get a chance to watch a documentary called Babies, the documentary, please do. I've seen it on Netflix from time to time and also on YouTube. So please seek that out. It follows 4 babies from the time they're born to their first year of life in different parts of the world. It's really great to see the differences and how parenthood is approached. So check that out if you get a chance. Next, we have our week one announcements. Welcome. I've already gone to our discussion boards on memories of play, and I always love this discussion board. It brings up so many memories of different things from my childhood, things that I played with as well. And so keep up the good work on that. Get your initial discussion board post up by Wednesday at midnight. And then please do remember to respond to 2 classmates by Sunday at midnight. So with our week one, I always like to begin with the end in mind so that you can make your plans for the next 4 weeks. We're going to take just a few minutes to look at our final project that we'll be completing for this course. So you will be doing a developmental flyer, and you get to pick out the age range that you would like to cover. So anywhere from infant to 8 years old, pick an age and build a developmental flyer that you would be able to hand to your parents in the classroom. So let's say you're in a 2-year-old classroom, you're going to want to do a developmental flyer for 2-year-olds. A few things I'd like to see on that. Important things parents should know about this child at this particular age. You'll need to have at least 3 sentences on each of these. How children this age are developing, what children this age are learning, some safety concerns for this specific age group, activities parents should do with children this age, signs of potential developmental delays, and then any other information that you consider important that you'd like to pass along to your parents. As an ECE teacher, you're not just teaching the child, you're also teaching the family. Here's an example of a developmental flyer. This one is for a 2-year-old. This one's pretty professional, put together by the CDC, but I think it gives you the general idea. And also please know that you can either set it up in flyer form, or if you want to do it as more of a handout, it might be 2 pages long instead of just 1. That's fine too. Up here we've got the child's name, child's age, the date, a little bit about this age group. And then we've got a checklist of what we might see with this age group: socially and emotionally, language and communication, cognitive, how they're learning, how they're problem solving, and then lastly a little bit about movement and physical development. And then over here you've got act early by talking to your child's doctor if your child, and this has areas where you may see some concern and you need to speak to your child's pediatrician. And then we've got contact information as well. So great example of a developmental flyer. Also, on your flyer, you're going to need to have at least 3 pieces of clip art or graphics. It should be attractive. It should be easy to read. This should be a flyer that sort of draw the parents in so that they will want to go over the information. So make it interesting, and also be sure and use a program to create it that is compatible with My Course Connection. Some of those might be Word, Google Docs, Publisher. You might also use PowerPoint or Google Slides. All of these have different advantages. Publisher, Google Docs, or Publisher and Google Slides and PowerPoint tend to be more flexible for your format, but Word is perfectly acceptable, and Google Docs for a handout that's going to be more like 1 or 2 pages long without the columns that you would have on a flyer. So I hope that helps out a little bit. Here's the grading rubric for this assignment. So we've got providing a creative, colorful, and visually stimulating flyer with at least 3 pieces of clip art, 40 points. Providing 5 categories of specific information for your chosen developmental age, including a minimum of 3 sentences, ideas, or examples under each category. That's 50 points. And lastly, providing organized, clear work free from punctuation, grammar, and spelling errors. That's 10 points for a total of 100 points for our final project. Next, we have our student question of the week. Will career services help me with my job search after graduation? They most certainly will. Career services keeps a copy of your resume that you develop in career life development, and they will then update it for you, add some of the skills that you have learned along the way, add new jobs that maybe we need to include as well. And they also give interview coaching sessions. They receive quite a few contacts on a weekly basis for different departments, for employers seeking employees. So be sure and utilize them after you graduate. And also for the years following, if you ever need a job change, please come back to us and we'll help you out. So this week we want to go over a little bit about principles of growth and development. We're focusing mainly on infants here and the things that are going on that first year of life. Early brain development that occurs in the first year. We need to realize that poor nutrition can definitely have an impact on infant brain growth, and this is both before and after birth. Infants are born with millions of brain cells, many more than they will ever need or ever use, and there's a process that we go through where these are sort of pruned off as we don't use them. Here's an interesting fact about babies. Babies develop a taste preference in the womb. Whatever the mom is eating, the amniotic fluid becomes flavored with these foods, and babies are born with a preference for certain foods they're discovering. So you may look for examples of this with your own children or children that you've known. Maybe you had Mexican or Chinese food a lot when you were pregnant and they came out with a preference for that. Early brain development. A few terms I'd like for you to be familiar with. Plasticity, periods when the brain is more receptive to certain forms of learning. We know that early learning is so important because a child's mind is able to absorb so much more early on as they are as we get older. And then also pruning is the gradual elimination of unused cells and connections. In early childhood, we want to really emphasize experiences, different languages, different activities, so that we decrease the chances of this pruning occurring. So we want to really build that brain early on. Strategies to promote early learning. Some things that we might do. First of all, talk frequently, even if the baby cannot talk. Read often to children. Make this part of their everyday, several times a day. Label your actions and objects by simply speaking out loud about what you're doing, even if just around the house. Provide explanations and descriptions, sing songs and lullabies, dance with your baby or with your young child. We know these are so important. Some of the developmental domains that we deal with are the 6 basic domains, and we're going to look a little bit at these here in a minute, are the physical domain, motor, perceptual, cognitive, speech and language, and social and emotional. So first let's look at physical growth and development. This is the result of genetic and environmental interactions. You know from our previous course where we talked about the role of nature versus nurture, that they both do definitely make an impact. Development, physical growth and development cannot be hurried. We want the child to develop at the rate of speed necessary for their own body. Influence development in other domains. We can influence a little bit with muscle strength, function, and coordination by providing them with activities that enhance these areas or help these develop. Cognitive abilities such as recall and problem solving can be part of activities. Perception and an ability to use sensory information can also be influenced, again, by what they go through each day, the words that they hear, the senses that they learn about. Okay, motor development. If we specifically look at this, motor development is primarily involuntary or reflexive in infants. We talk about some of the reflexive instincts that babies are born with. Principal motors of development. There's 3 different ways we look at this. Cephalocaudal is that motor development occurs head to toe. In other words, a baby can normally move their head on purpose from fairly younger than they can move their legs and their feet, realizing they are their own. Proximodistal is central to extremities, so that means development may occur from the center of the body, the torso, and then reaching out into the arms, the hands, the legs, the feet. We know that nerve paths aren't completely formed yet in an infant, and that oftentimes they don't even realize their arms and legs are their own until several months down the road. And then we have refinement, which is increasing improvement in their ability. They become more dexterous, more precise in their movements, and also develop a little coordination. Perceptual development is basically talking about their senses. So multisensory is the ability to recognize information from multiple senses at one time. So they can hear things, they can touch things, they can smell things all at one time without focusing on one sense. Habituation is the ability to focus on specific sensory input. So an example of this might be the flavor of foods. Sensory integration, ability to act on sensory information. So maybe an infant hears a bell ringing and they turn their head towards the sound. Speech and language development depends on the maturation of the child and the understanding of symbolic representation in their world. Consists of gestures in the beginning, and then we move to spoken words and written communication. So this does happen in stages. Receptive language develops initially so that they can understand a little bit about what's being said, but they can't respond to it. And then expressive language follows after that, in which they can engage in conversations. Social and emotional development is where our nurturing and consistent caregivers come into play. We know the importance of this. Attachment contributes to trust and security, and once a child has established trust with their caregivers and security in their environment, they can then learn to explore their environment, build their self-esteem, build their self-confidence. And this may remind you a little bit of Maslow's hierarchy. It also includes learning social rules, how to get along with other children, gender roles, cultural expectation, and is necessary for achieving autonomy, which is our goal as they age. They become more and more autonomous, able to learn things on their own, do things on their own. Attachment, I love this quote, what is best for the child is not always what is most convenient for the parent. That's Bonnie Bedford. We have to realize that sometimes we have to take that time, whatever might be happening. Sometimes it's not convenient for us to talk about exactly what we're doing step by step, but we know that if we're talking through this, that the child is hearing more words and beginning to understand their world a little bit better. Don't rush through childhood. And lastly, questions. If you have any questions, please contact me. Facebook, text, email, phone call. It's all listed on our course page. Thank you and have a great week.